Naropa is one of the preeminent figures in Tantric Buddhism. The story of his life is well known to Buddhists, and he is especially revered in Tibet, the center of Tantric Buddhism. Naropa was born in Bengal in 1016 Common Era. Naropa's father was a king and member of the ruling class. Naropa's parents only had a single daughter and were worried about being able to continue their bloodline. They consulted their spiritual advisor, who told them to erect great temples and become very devout. Following this advice, they built temples all across their kingdom and spent much of their time in spiritual practice. Naropa was in between reincarnations at this point. He remembered that he needed a special body to reach enlightenment in this lifetime and decided to enter his mother's womb. His mother had a dream the night Naropa entered her womb, which prophesied his greatness. She experienced the indivisibility between nothingness and bliss. When she told her husband the next day, he told her with great delight that a sentient being had entered her womb during the night. This is expected, as Naropa was said to be from the awakened family line, or the lineage of the Buddhas, and thus destined for greatness and enlightenment. Even early in his life, Naropa was convinced of his goal. He focused on the Dharma and traveled to Kashmir to study. Here he masters the 5 branches of learning: arts, medicine, grammar, epistemology, and rhetoric. He spent his youth almost entirely on study. This causes his parents to become worried about him producing an heir, so they decided to force him to marry. Naropa initially rejects the idea. However, his parents persist. Naropa decides that he can marry, only if it will not harm his path to his enlightenment. So he makes a very specific request for a wife. He demands that she must be Hindu, she must have an enlightened mind, she must be caring and compassionate, her name must be Vimala, and she must be 16 years old. His parents were convinced that such a girl would be impossible to find. Their desperation for an heir leads them to search for her nevertheless. After searching India for a year, his parents found such a girl. She and Naropa were married in a short time. Naropa thought that such a specific request would result in him never getting married. But after finding out about Vimala, Naropa realized that nothing was impossible. At first, this marriage proceeded well. Naropa instructed Vimala in the teachings of Mahayana Buddhism, and Vimala was an eager student. However, marriage was just not an option for Naropa. After 8 years of marriage, they divorced so that Naropa could continue his path, unencumbered by any commitments. Naropa firmly believed that adding to his life could only take him further away from enlightenment. Naropa traveled across India to continue his studies. He had not yet become a monk, and felt that his training would be incomplete without that ordination. To solve this problem, he traveled to Pune in Kashmir to be ordained as a bhikshu. He remained here for 3 years, studying commentaries on the traditional Mahayana texts. He traveled to Pulahari after he had completed his studies at the monastery. Here he became widely known for his understanding of the Buddha's doctrines, as well as for his ability to spread the Buddha's message. He then traveled to the University of Nalanda, where he became the elder scholar in a short period. After receiving his post, he gave a speech that converted all of the scholars of the university to Buddhism. After 8 years at the university, it became time for him to again move on. Walking one day, Naropa ran into an ugly old woman, who displayed the 37 ugly features. The woman asked Naropa if he understood the words or the sense of the Buddha's teaching. Naropa replied that he understood the words. This delighted the woman, which emboldened Naropa to claim that he understood the sense of the words as well. This caused the woman great sorrow. When asked why she was delighted when he only understood the words, but saddened when he claimed that he understood the sense, she replied, she was overjoyed that he knew that he only understood the words that he was studying, but disappointing that he lied and said he knew the sense as well. Naropa then understood that true understanding of the teachings could not be obtained by words alone. He understood that he must learn to transcend verbal thought. The old woman told him to go and study under Tilopa. Naropa agreed to do this and left his university to go find Tilopa. Naropa faced a number of tests before becoming Tilopa's disciple. All of the tests tested him on core aspects of Buddhist practice. In ignoring a leper who was slowing his path, Naropa learned that he must free himself from habit-forming thoughts. In ignoring a dog covered in vermin, Naropa learned that he must have compassion for all of nature's creatures. After refusing help from a scoundrel, because he was a scholar and a prince, Naropa learned that he must free himself from the bounds of egoism. Naropa faced a few more of these tests before discovering all the people he met were merely disguises of Talopa. Talopa then accepts Naropa as his disciple. Naropa then faced his 12 acts of self-denial to acquire Talopa's full instructions and to attune his mind to that of Talopa's. For his first act, Naropa jumps off the top of a roof and breaks his body on the ground below, because Talopa tells him that if he had a disciple, his disciple would jump from the roof. Talopa restored Naropa's body with a wave of his hand and told him the method of realizing the mother Han-sig-skisma. For his second act of self-denial, Naropa jumped into a fire, burning himself severely in the process. Talopa healed him and gave him instructions on one-valuedness. Talopa instructed Naropa to offend nearby villagers by ignoring local custom and spoiling their food. This resulted in the villagers beating Naropa half to death. Once more, Talopa heals him, and this time gives Naropa instructions on the wish-fulfilling gem of commitment. Talopa and Naropa sat near a dark pond filled with leeches. Talopa said if he had a disciple, he would build a bridge over the pond. Naropa attempted to do so, but when he was halfway across, he slipped, and the leeches attacked him. After healing Naropa, Talopa gave him instructions on the mystic heat. For the fifth act, Talopa split and sharpened reeds with a knife. He dipped the ends in hot fat and pressed them against Naropa's body. After healing him, Talopa instructed him on the manner in which to free himself from the 8 worldly concerns. A man appeared near Talopa and Naropa carrying a heavy load, and Talopa ordered Naropa to pursue him. Naropa was unable to catch the man and eventually collapsed from exhaustion. After healing Naropa, Talopa instructed him on dreams. Naropa and Talopa came across a minister and his new bride. Talopa instructed Naropa to pull them down from their elephant and drag them about. The minister and his assistants promptly beat Naropa to a pulp. After healing Naropa, Talopa instructed him on the inexistence of the darkness of unknowing. Talopa ordered Naropa to assail a king and his queen this time. Naropa was similarly battered. After healing Naropa, Talopa instructed him on transference. Naropa and Talopa came across a prince who was with his gathered army. Naropa attacked the prince as ordered, and the prince's army demolished Naropa as expected. After healing Naropa, Talopa instructed him on resurrection. Talopa tells Naropa to get a girl. Naropa goes to the nearby village and finds a local girl. He lives with her and is happy for a time, but his attachment to the world starts to take its toll. Even worse, Naropa must take a job with a smith. Talopa instructs him on internal delight. Talopa tells Naropa if he wants instructions to give him his girl. Naropa does so without hesitation. The girl turns her back on Talopa and looks only at Naropa. For this, Talopa beats her. Naropa sits happily without his girl, unmoved by the scene of violence before him. Talopa declares Naropa worthy of eternal bliss and gives him instruction on the illuminating Mahamudra transcending awareness. Talopa leads Naropa out into the desert for Naropa's final great act. Naropa makes a mandala out of sand and his own flesh and his own blood, before passing out from blood loss. After healing Naropa, Talopa instructed him on the intermediate state. Now that Naropa had passed his 12 great acts of self-denial, he was ready to learn from Talopa. Naropa learns to act in a way that is beyond words and thoughts. Naropa learns to understand the meaning of coincidence. After finishing his teaching to Naropa, Talopa passes away, or merely becomes invisible, but reaches enlightenment nevertheless. Naropa then became a great Buddhist teacher for the rest of his life. Naropa taught all those who wished the ways of Buddhism. His most famous student was Marpa, the next in the Kagyu lineage. At the age of 85, Naropa entered nirvana and left his physical body behind. Marpa received Naropa's teachings and passed them on. Marpa had prophetic dreams revealing Naropa to be his guru. Naropa taught Marpa in much the same way that Tilopa taught him. He used various trials to illustrate key aspects of Buddhist teaching. Marpa continued the legacy of his teacher and spread the most well-known of Naropa's achievements, the 6 yogas of Naropa.